This is Atlantic Television Network. The highlights. Fubara tax core members to uphold lasting legacy. Senate appoints 12 members on Electoral Act. El Rufai insists no zoning in ADC presidential primaries. NASRODA calls for investment in technology skills. Trump threatens to block Canada bridge. Benzema's text message threatens Cristiano Ronaldo. Thames is first African female artist with 7 entries. Welcome back. River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has charged core members serving in the state to leave enduring legacies and assured his administration support for the National Youth Service Corps. Fubara particularly assured the core members of their welfare and security throughout the duration of the service year, while urging them to be good ambassadors of the oil-rich state. The governor stated these at the NYSC Permanent Orientation Camp in Nonwagbam, Thai local government area of the state on Tuesday, during the closing ceremony of the 2026 Batch A Stream 1 orientation course for core members deployed to the state. He further said the ongoing comprehensive renovation of the camp facilities will receive speedy completion, and further assured them that River State remains a home away from home for all core members posted in the 23 local government areas of the state. In his remarks, the state NYSC coordinator Moses Olegge, in his farewell address, appealed to the core members to shine as light and dispel the darkness of tribalism, ethnic bigotry, hate speech, and corruption, which has eaten deep into the fabric of the nation's life. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, says President Bola Tinubu's intervention in the political crisis involving River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara would be the final time the president will step in to resolve the dispute. Wike stated this on Tuesday while speaking to journalists after inspecting ongoing infrastructure projects in the FCT shortly after the president brokered a fresh peace move between him and Fubara at the presidential villa in Abuja on Sunday night. Addressing questions on the River State crisis, Wike said the president acted in his capacity as a father figure and peacemaker, but stressed that such intervention should not become a recurring issue. The National Working Committee of the Labour Party has appointed a 19-man interim state working committee to oversee the party's affairs in River State. A statement jointly signed by the party's national chairman, Nenadi Usman, and the national secretary, Darlington Nwokocha, said Frederick Nwoje was appointed chairman with Precious Nwogo, Godfrey Otamiri, Anthony Wanchoku, Nyeche Nwodike, lawyer Thompson, and Nwi Wagbo Harry serving as deputy chairman. Choma Atandi Kiari was named secretary. Other members of the committee include Chinedu Christian Anele and Bright Odum as assistant secretaries, Samson Nwoka as financial secretary, our former Jonathan as treasurer, Dr. Victor Tubo as publicity secretary, Onusaka Sainemi as youth leader, Bakenwari Bob Manuel as women leader, Akaha Egonu as deputy women leader, Ojuku Christian as auditor, Meos Olu as legal advisor, and Ogoya Princewell as organizing secretary. The statement also said the interim leadership is expected to begin the process of rebuilding and strengthening the party in River State, while on 21 January 2026, the Federal High Court in Abuja ruled that Nenadi Usman is the lawful leader of Labour Party and ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to recognize her leadership. This is coming after on 30 January 2006, INEC subsequently listed Usman as the caretaker national chairman of the party on its official website, and the electoral body also reaffirmed her recognition last week, while the Julius Abure faction of the party had rejected the court judgment and declared plans to appeal the ruling. Abia State government has denied allegations that Governor Alex Oti sued the federal government of Nigeria at the World Court over the approval of a cargo airport in Aba. A statement issued on Tuesday, the State Commissioner for Information, Oke Kanu, said the claim is misleading and entirely fabricated and no such lawsuit exists, adding that Oti has neither approached nor petitioned any international court against the Nigerian government on the matter or any other issue. Kanu also said the story is false in its entirety, reckless in intent, and deliberately crafted to mislead the public, stressing that issues relating to aviation infrastructure approvals in Nigeria are clearly defined within existing national regulatory and administrative frameworks. Anambra State government has suspended head teachers of 9 state-owned schools for 2 weeks following reports of low attendance of pupils and students on Monday. A statement by the chairman of the Anambra State Universal Basic Education Board, Dr. Vera Nwadinobi, during an assessment visit to the affected schools to monitor attendance, expressed satisfaction after she observed low turnout of pupils and students despite the presence of teachers. She said the assessment exercise was part of monitoring activities in schools across the state to ascertain compliance with the state's executive order abolishing the closure of schools on Mondays over sit at home, adding that in some of the schools visited no pupil or student was found, while in others only between 2 and 5 pupils were present. The affected schools visited included Union Primary School, Upo in Donu Kofia local government area where only 3 pupils were found, and she warned that any teacher or non-tutorial staff who fails to comply with either receive 20% of his or her salary or forfeit it entirely. This was conveyed in a letter dated January 22, 2026 and signed by the Board Secretary, Universal Basic Education Board, Loveling Ingbe Mena. Operation Clean and Healthy Anambra, otherwise known as ORCA Brigade, has carried out an enforcement exercise in and around Mbuka Obosi Market in Idemili North local government area of the state, where it demolished several shanties and illegal structures located directly on the high-tension cables. A statement said the exercise was aimed at sanitizing the area and discouraging residents, traders and developers from continuing the dangerous and unlawful practice of building or operating businesses within restricted power line corridors. Speaking during the exercise, Managing Director of the ORCA Brigade, Celestine Anere, said it was part of the agency's responsibility to protect lives and public infrastructure, adding that structures on the high-tension lines pose serious safety risks to occupants and the general public. Ebonyi State Government Security Council has ordered the recovery of severe heads of slain residents of Orojo community in Osho Eda within 72 hours, following the January 29 killings that left 4 people dead. A communique issued after a high-level security meeting on Tuesday. A statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor Monday Uzo said the Council reviewed security reports on the attack and resolved to reinforce earlier measures aimed at preventing further breakdown of law and order. The Council upheld that the continued enforcement of a curfew in affected communities and also issued a 72-hour ultimatum regarding the severed heads of the slain victims. And in addition, the Council directed that 4 abducted members of the Okporojo community be released within 3 days. The statement also said funeral arrangements will remain suspended pending compliance with the directives and warned that failure to comply would attract sanctions, and the resolutions come amid ongoing investigations by security agencies into the killings, which have been linked to a protracted land dispute between Okporojo in Oshol Eda local government area, and Amasiri in Afikpo local government area. Police spokesperson SP Joshua Okandu confirmed that the arrests were made during the joint security operation involving the police, Nigerian Army, Department of State Services, and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. Chief Judge of Ekiti State, Justice Lekon Ogunmoye, says the State High Court is set to deploy technology in its operations through the Nigeria Case Management System. Ogunmoye said the court had acquired the required hardware and trained personnel ahead of onboarding into the digital case management platform. He spoke in Ado Ekiti at a roundtable stakeholders discussion on the enrollment and onboarding of the Ekiti State High Court into the NCMS Lego Mail and e-filing application, adding that an initiative of the National Judicial Council implemented through the Judicial Information Technology Policy Committee of Nigeria is designed to streamline and automate court processes to enhance efficiency, transparency, and access to justice. Okomoyo urged judges, lawyers, court staff, the Nigerian Bar Association, and the State Internal Revenue Service to embrace the new system, describing it as a significant shift in judicial operations. Kwara State government has denied reports circulating on social media alleging that a corps member died of Lassa fever at the National Service Corps orientation camp in the state. A statement by the Ministry of Health's Press Secretary Saad Amdalat, following an investigation by the state's rapid response team, said the probe was led by the state epidemiologist Dr. Kamadin Khadija after a social media post on Sunday, February 8, 2026, claimed that a corps member had died from suspected Lassa fever at the camp. The government said findings from field investigations and a retrospective active case search revealed no evidence of Lassa fever infection or transmission within the NYC camp, and no suspected or confirmed cases of viral hemorrhagic fever were recorded among corps members or camp officials. Kamadin, however, said surveillance had been intensified as a precautionary measure, and the rapid response team conducted supportive supervision at the camp clinic and reinforced infection prevention and control practices. The epidemiologist urged members of the public to disregard unverified social media reports and rely on information from official government sources, adding that the camp management invited the parents of the corps members who took her to an external health facility on February 1, 2026, but the corps member later died on February 7, 2026 outside the camp environment. National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has uncovered what it described as one of the worst counterfeit medicine operations in recent years after seizing over 10 million doses of fake and banned drugs hidden inside warehouses in Lagos State. NAFDAC's Director of Investigation and Enforcement and Chairman of the Federal Task Force on Fake and Substandard Products, Mr. Martins Ilio Made, said the discovery followed intelligence from a training meeting held on February 3 on suspicious activities around the trade fair in Navy area. Inside the buildings, officials found large quantities of counterfeit medicines, including injectable antimalarials, antibiotics, sachet drugs, blister packs, and banned products such as Analgin, which has been prohibited for over 15 years, stressing that the street value of the confiscated products is over 3 billion naira, with 8 trailers loaded with assorted fake medicines and cosmetics evacuated from the site. He described the operation as the work of an international syndicate and warned that Nigeria's health system is under attack from counterfeiters driven by profit. Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak on Monday night convened an emergency security council meeting with heads of security agencies in Kwara State following the recent terrorist attack in Kayama local government area that reportedly left about 175 people dead. The meeting held at the Amadou Bello House in Ilorin was part of the state government's response to the incident, which has heightened security concerns across communities in the north-central state. Speaking after the meeting, Abdurazak said the session was aimed at reviewing the security situation and strengthening coordinated efforts to address emerging threats, and expressed optimism that the resolutions reached at the meeting would improve security and restore calm in affected areas. The emergency meeting comes amid intensified security operations in parts of Kwara following coordinated attacks in Kayama and surrounding communities. Security agencies have reportedly deployed the military and police personnel to forecast corridors believed to be used by armed groups, and the consultations underscore efforts by the state government to strengthen intelligence sharing, interagency coordination, and rapid response mechanisms to prevent further attacks in vulnerable rural communities. Speaking with journalists at the government house, Ilorin Governor Oyebanji described the attack as unfortunate and expressed solidarity with the Kwara State government and residents, adding that the three states would continue to strengthen collaboration to tackle cross-border criminal activities threatening communities in the region. Suspected bandits have abducted 4 the artists of Oju and Obi local government areas of Benue State. The passengers were traveling to the southwest when their vehicle was intercepted along the Okpoku axis within Benue State at about 7 p.m. on Monday, and this is coming less than 48 hours. 9 worshippers were kidnapped during a vigil at St. John's Catholic Church, Ujije, in Utonkun, Ado local government area of the state. The chairman of Oju local government area, Jackson Ominyu, confirmed the incident on Tuesday, said 2 people were killed. The police public relations officer for the state command, Udeme Edet, is yet to speak on the matter. Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Waidi Shuaibu has approved the immediate deployment of the Chief of Army Staff Intervention Battalion of Special Forces to Plateau State to aggressively and decisively address the recent resurgence of terrorist attacks. A statement signed by the Media Information Officer and of Joint Task Force Operation Enduring Peace, Captain Chinoso Ote, and cited on the Nigerian Army's X handle on Tuesday, described the move as a potential game changer in tackling insecurity in the region. The statement said the deployment comes against a backdrop of renewed violence in the north-central region in 2026, while Major General Oyinlola appealed to residents of Plateau State not to panic at the sight of large troop movement and heavy military equipment. He expressed appreciation for the public's continued support and urged citizens to provide actionable and timely intelligence on the whereabouts of criminal elements to aid operations and restore peace in the state. Minister of Federal Capital Territory, FCT Barrister Yesom Wiki, has assured FCT residents more dividends of democracy through road infrastructure in 2026. The minister will disclose this after inspection of key road projects in Life Camp and road linking to Renew Hope Housing Estate in Abuja, expressed confidence that the May-June completion timeline will be met, and further assured that the FCT administration would ensure prompt funding to facilitate timely delivery.
Life Camp N5 and it's completely finished. We were there when the Las Vegas said in 3 weeks' time they will have finished. What they are working on is the walkways, and then the street lights are already there. Last time we went there, you remember that the bridges were not completed, but today you can see that the bridges are completed, 4 lanes, each of the sides. So we're happy it's one of those projects that we think will be inaugurated in the present third year in office. Here again, we're in Kasana. You can see the work going on, carried out by Lubrix or Krimborg, I think. Lubrix. Okay, Lubrix Construction. Very impressed with the quality of work. I didn't know that it's like a ring road, covering over 10% kilometers. I've asked the company, and from what I've seen, they're really going to meet up the May-June. I sincerely thank them and believe that on our own part, we'll make sure that they get the necessary funding so as to finish this project on time. But we're very happy. Okay. All I can tell you, yes, Mr. President has been very kind to the people of the state. if there seems to be a problem between the legislature and the governor, and as a father, he really has to intervene. I remember this is the second time Mr. President is intervening. I believe, by the grace of God, this will be the last time. I believe that the Assembly, I've told them to do the needful to obey Mr. President, which I know they will not hesitate. And I also believe that the governor will carry out his own part to make sure that this is the final time Rivers people will begin to hear this kind of discord. So that is it.
That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Responding to the question about River State political crisis, Wike said President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's intervention in the lingering political tension in River State has helped to steady the situation, while acknowledging that the president's role is in mediating between contending parties in the state. Transmission Company of Nigeria says electricity supply will be temporarily disrupted in several parts of Mina, Niger State, as it carries out maintenance on the power transformer at the 132 and 33 kV Mina transmission substation. A statement signed by the its General Manager, Public Affairs Ndidi Imba on Tuesday, TCN said the maintenance is being carried out on the 30 MVA 132 and 33 kV power transformer TR2 at the substation on February 10. The company said the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company apologizes to its customers in Tonga, Shiroro area, Police Secondary School, Air Force Base, Mike Kunkele, Tudun Fulani, Beji, and also assured consumers that power supply will be restored immediately after the exercise is completed, and express regret for any inconvenience the disruption may cause. Suspected bandits kidnapped residents of Danhonu 2 community in New Millennium City, Chikunduku government area of Kaduna State on Monday, protested recurring kidnapping incidents following the abduction of seven persons by suspected bandits. The protesters marched to the Millennium City Divisional Police Headquarters, where they blocked a major access road while chanting solidarity songs and demanding urgent security intervention. And the latest attack on Sunday involved armed men who stormed the community and abducted members of two families. Those kidnapped were identified as Malam Yahaya Yusuf, his wife Latifat, and their sons Abdul Ghaffar and Abdul Kudus. And also abducted were Mrs. Abdul Razak Jimo and two of her children, whose names were not immediately disclosed. Residents said the incident heightened fear in the community, adding that it brought the total number of kidnapping cases recorded in the area to 11 within a few months. They alleged that the attacks were largely targeted at non-indigens residing in the community, raising concerns that informants might be aiding the criminals. When conducted, the Kaduna State Police Public Relations Officer DSP Manse Hassan confirmed the incident, saying the police received the distress call and responded promptly, and the police operatives alongside soldiers were deployed to the scene. Both arrived late due to poor road access and difficult terrain, allowing the attackers to escape despite an exchange of gunfire. He further said the Commissioner of Police, CP Rabiu Muhammad, visited the community and met with stakeholders, assuring them that the command would consider establishing a police outpost in the area. Federal government has formally reopened the Niger-Niger Republic border through the Kamba corridor in Kebbi State, The reopening comes barely days after the president approved the resumption of cross-border movement along the Nigeria-Benin Republic route via the Samiya corridor, a move aimed at revitalizing regional trade, strengthening economic ties, and easing the movement of legitimate goods and services across West Africa. Speaking during the official reopening ceremony in Kamba, the area controller of the Nigeria Customs Service, Kebbi Area Command, Mahmoud Ibrahim, said the service was fully committed to implementing the president's directive as convened by the Comptroller General of Customs, adding that Customs would intensify monitoring and enforcement to ensure compliance with trade regulations while preventing smuggling and other illegal activities along the reopened routes. Also speaking, the Comptroller of the Federal Operations Unit Zone B, Aminu Suleiman, assured stakeholders that the reopening would be accompanied by strict enforcement measures to protect national economic interests. Sokoto State Police Command has disbursed 29.6 million naira in group life assurance benefits to families of officers who lost their lives or sustained serious injuries while on active duty. A total of 29.6 million naira was presented to 10 beneficiaries on Tuesday, highlighting the force's efforts to support families of personnel who made the ultimate sacrifice. The presentation was made on behalf of the Commissioner of Police, Sokoto State Command, Ahmad Musa, by the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of Finance and Administration, Omar Sokoto, alongside members of the command's management team. Sokoto said the gesture reflects the Nigeria Police Force's commitment to the welfare of its personnel and their dependents, adding that the group life assurance scheme is designed to caution the economic impact of the loss on affected families and advise the beneficiaries to make prudent use of the funds by investing in ventures that provide long-term benefit and financial stability for their households. Speaking on behalf of the beneficiaries, Hanimatu Ahmad, widow of a deceased officer, expressed gratitude to the Inspector General of Police, ISP Kayode Adolu Egbetokun, for his compassionate and responsive leadership, and also thanked the police authorities for their timely intervention, noting that the support would significantly ease the burden on the families. You're watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We'll be back after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. President Bola Tinubu has requested the Senate's confirmation of Mr. Usman Dakin Geri Suleiman as career ambassador. The request was read during an emergency plenary on Tuesday following correspondence from the president, and the request was thereafter referred to the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, which is expected to report back within 1 week.
You know that this is a matter of urgency. I believe that if you're able to conclude within the next few days or 1 week, the president should be able to sign this amended electoral bill into an act of parliament within this month of February. So I wish you a worthy deliberation with your colleagues.
Senate has appointed 12 members to work with the House of Representatives on the Electoral Amendments Act, which has stirred recent uproar. The president of the Senate, Gospel Akpabio, declared the committee members on Tuesday during an emergency plenary session. The members are Senator Simon Lalong, who will serve as chairman, Senator Ojuzo Carlos, Senator Tahe Mongono, Senator Adamu Alero, Senator Abba Moro, Senator Asokwo Ekpenyong, Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, Senator Tokumbo Abiru, Senator Ni Adegbon Mire-san, Senator Jibrin Isa, Senator Ipalibo Banigo, and Senator Onyekachi Nwebonyi. The Senate President said the outcome will be transmitted promptly to President Bola Tinubu for assent by the end of February and subsequently struck the gavel to formally constitute the committee. And this is coming after the proceedings turned rowdy shortly after the Senate Chief Whip, Senator Tahe Monguno, APC Borno North, raised the point of order seeking the rescission of the Chamber's earlier approval of Clause 60, Paragraph 3 of the bill. Monguno anchored his request on Orders 1, Paragraph B and 52, Paragraph 6 of the Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended and was seconded by Senator Abdul Ningi, PDP Bauchi Central, adding that the move immediately sparked tension in the chamber with several senators raising points of order in protest. Senator Naya Abaribe invoked Order 72, calling for individual voting on the motion, but later withdrew his request, while Senator Dickett Plank moved the motion that the earlier votes and proceedings be adopted and approved as amended. The motion was seconded by Senator Siriake Dixon.
Naya Abaribe, and I represent Abia South. My point of order is Order 72, Mr. President.
Order, please. My mic is not working. Order.
All the extra. I'm still standing on my point of order.
Order, please. Order, please.
After putting the question to a voice vote, the Senate President declared the motion passed, announcing that the membership of the conference committee had been expanded from 9 to 12, with Senator Simon Lalong named as chairman and others as members.
Conference committee, when you meet, you know that this is a matter of urgency. I believe that if you're able to conclude within the next few days or 1 week, the president should be able to sign this amended electoral bill into an act of parliament within this month of February. So I wish you a worthy deliberation with your colleagues.
Senate has approved the electronic transmission of election results to the Independent National Electoral Commission's results viewing portal, IREV, while allowing manual collection as a backup in cases where technology fails. The decision came after lawmakers visited the disputed clause in the Electoral Act Amendment Bill during an emergency plenary session held on Tuesday. However, the Senate did not make electronic transmission compulsory and also rejected a provision requiring the real-time upload of results, while under the amended section, presiding officers at polling units are expected to electronically transmit results to the IREV portal after voting and documentation have been completed. The amendment further provides that where electronic transmission cannot be done due to network or communication challenges, the manual result sheet form ECA 8A will serve as the primary basis for collation and declaration. And while putting the motion to a voice vote, Senate President Gospel Akpabio urged senators opposing the amendment to challenge it formally. He said the motion was aimed at reversing an earlier Senate decision on Section 60, Subsection 3 of the Electoral Act, while the law now recognizes situations where electronic transmission may not be possible. Senators urged the federal government through the service chiefs and the Office of the National Security Advisor to intensify efforts toward the safe rescue and release of all abducted women and children in Woro community in Kayama local government in Kwara State. Not only that, the Senate equally called on the federal government to redesign and comprehensively the Kenji Forest Reserve of criminal elements and considered the strategic establishment of security formation were necessary. The decision followed the motion of national importance raised by Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar from Kwara North on the floor, where he posited that communities in remote and forest bordering areas remain vulnerable and require protection to protect loss of lives.
That communities in remote and forest bordering areas remain vulnerable and require enhanced protection, early warning mechanisms, and rapid response to prevent loss of lives and humanitarian crisis. Accordingly, Senate resolves to 1, urge the federal government through the service chiefs and the Office of the National Security Advisor to intensify efforts towards the safe rescue and release of all abducted women and children from Woro community. 2, call on the federal government to redesign and comprehensively clear the Kanji Forest Reserve of criminal elements and consider the strategic establishment of security formations where necessary.
Other senators in the remarks described the incident as a sad one, noting that the issues of insecurity, armed banditry, kidnapping, and abduction has become a recurring decimal and called for urgent actions. Deputy Senate President Senator Jibrin Barau called on the federal and state government to provide comprehensive resources and well-structured programs for the displaced families and residents of Woro community and other areas.
Encourage the conversion of designated and secure portions of the forest reserve into regulated agricultural zones with value chain economic activities to promote food security and lawful livelihoods. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Urge the federal and state governments to provide comprehensive support resources and well-structured programs for displaced farmers and residents of Woro community and neighboring areas, aimed at restoring their livelihoods, rebuilding economic resilience, and enabling them to regain sustainable economic stability. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate equally urged the federal government to completely fund and complete the already awarded Wawa Kayama and Kayama Kishi Road project, noting that the terrible state of the roads has made access to communities difficult as well as worsened security in the region. Senate President Godswill Akpabio has congratulated senators following the Court of Appeal judgment upholding the 6-month suspension of Senator Natasha Akpotu-Duagan in March 2025. Akpabio made the remarks at the commencement of an emergency plenary session on Tuesday. This is coming after the Court of Appeal in Abuja ruled that the Senate acted within its constitutional powers in suspending Senator Akpotu-Duagan over alleged misconduct. In a unanimous judgment, the 3-member panel of the appellate court held that Akpotu-Duagan's parliamentary privilege and constitutional rights were not breached by the suspension. Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Doris Nkiruka Uzoka Anete, says the federal government's 2026 budget is designed to accelerate reforms as well as deepen fiscal discipline and ensure deployment of the limited national resources towards maximum efficiency and impact. Speaking at the public hearing on the 2026 appropriation bill organized by the Senate Committee on Appropriations at the National Assembly Abuja, Uzoka Anete said the focus of the administration has shifted from budget formulation to measurable outcomes. The minister described 2026 as a year of consolidation, with the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Finance projecting 4.49% GDP growth and called on improved revenue performance, fiscal discipline, and strong coordination between monetary and fiscal authorities.
The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Ministry of Finance share a growth projection of 4.49% for 2026, rising to 4.68%. Inflation is expected to ease gradually with a target to bring it down below 13% by the end of 2026. To meaningfully reduce poverty and unemployment, Nigeria must sustain growth rates of 6 to 7%, well above population growth. The 2026 outlook shows progress, but it confirms that acceleration must be engineered. The growth rate required to achieve a 1 trillion economy is at its minimum 10% in 10 years. And this is different from what I said earlier of 6 to 7%, which is only necessary to reduce the level of poverty in the country. And this brings me to the medium-term fiscal priorities. Our trajectory is stable, supported by reforms to strengthen revenue performance and improve fiscal discipline. Revenues are projected at 34 trillion in 2026, driven by subsidy reform and improved compliance.
In his remarks, Deputy Senate President Senator Jibrin Barawu, who represented Senate President Godswill Akpabio, said the 2026 budget was not about spending more, but spending better, stressing that appropriation must translate into real impact for Nigerians.
Keynes once observed, the difficulty lies not so much in developing new ideas as in escaping from old ones. Our task, therefore, is not simply to spend more, but to spend better. Not merely to allocate funds, but to convert budgets into outcomes and appropriations into impact. This is why the theme of this hearing, From Budget to Impact, is both timely and profound. Fiscal discipline, tax reforms, macroeconomic stability, infrastructural delivery, and effective implementation are not isolated objectives. They are interlinked pillars of our national recovery and growth. When one fails, the structure weakens. When all are aligned, the nation advances. I wish to especially commend the Senate Committee on Appropriations for its diligence, foresight, and commitment to transparency. By opening this process to public scrutiny and expert engagement, the committee affirms a core democratic principle that budgeting in a democracy is not done for the people alone, but with the people.
Earlier in his opening remark, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Solomon Adola, said the budget is anchored on key assumptions, including an inflation target of 16.5%, as well as the exchange rate of 1,400 naira to the dollar, oil production of 1.84 million barrels per day, and a benchmark oil price of $64.85 per barrel.
Benefits of the president reform are now evident. Inflation has eased to about 15%. Foreign reserves exceed $42 billion. The exchange rate has stabilized, and the downstream sector, petroleum sector, is fully market-driven. These reforms have also freed up revenues, resulting in significant improved FAC allocation to states and local governments, enabling growth and development at subnational level. These gains are reinforced by an unprecedented infrastructural drive with over 440 roads projects, more than 2,700 kilometers of highway under construction, and major rail projects advancing, strengthening investors' confidence and Nigerian growth outlook. During his recent engagement, Mr. President, the World Bank acknowledged that these reforms are restoring macroeconomic discipline, improving fiscal transparency, strengthening revenue mobilization, and laying the foundation for a sustainable economic growth.
Arewa Consultative Forum has raised the alarm over alleged alterations to provisions of the Electoral Act by the National Assembly, describing the development as dangerous to Nigeria's democracy and demanding that if it be stopped, immediately. The Pan-Northern Socio-Political Organization said the alleged alterations coming after the bill that had been duly passed by the legislature amounted to an assault on the integrity of the lawmaking process. The ACF made its position known on Tuesday through its National Publicity Secretary, Professor Tuku Mohammed Baba in Kaduna that the forum was deeply concerned by what he described as emerging circumstances in which allegations were being raised about the content of bills emanating from the National Assembly. He said the issue of alleged tampering with legislation was not new, recalling that similar concerns had previously been raised over other laws before the current controversy surrounding the Electoral Act, while the ACF spokesperson said Nigeria operates a democratic system in which the decisions of the National Assembly are passed by elected representatives of the people must be respected and treated as inviolable. Muhammad Baba warned that any tendency to alter laws after passage, regardless of the reasons behind it, pose a serious threat to democratic governance and described the actions as courageous and patriotic. Federal government has urged the Federal Character Commission to intensify enforcement of the Federal Character Principle across ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs. The federal government said fairness, inclusion, and public trust in governance depend largely on the Commission's actions. This is coming after the Secretary to the State Government to the Government of the Federation, SGF Senator George Akume, gave the directive on Tuesday in Abuja at a two-day induction and sensitization workshop organized for members of the 5th Board of the FCC. Akume, represented by his senior technical advisor, Professor Babatunde Bernard, said the Federal Character Principle remained a constitutional imperative and a cornerstone of national cohesion, stressing that it must be implemented strictly and without compromise, and also urged the board members to discharge their duties with objectivity, professionalism, and unwavering loyalty to the Constitution, adding that public perception of fairness and justice in governance would largely depend on their conduct. According to him, the federal government expects the Commission to strengthen data-driven oversight mechanisms, promote transparency, and work closely with relevant stakeholders to ensure inclusive governance in line with President Bola Tinubu's renewed Hope agenda. Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede has called for urgent strengthening of the Nigeria Police Force and the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps to consolidate gains recorded by the armed forces in the fight against insurgency and banditry across the country. General Oluyede made the call on Tuesday during the 2025 budget appraisal and defense of the 2026 budget proposal at the National Assembly Complex, Abuja, adding that the police and civil defense, which have larger personnel strength and wider community reach than the armed forces, must be adequately equipped to take over and secure areas already cleared of criminal elements by the military. According to the defense boss, if the institutions are strengthened, they can effectively hold and secure territories where the armed forces have succeeded, ensuring that such areas remain safe. He also assured Nigerians that renewed efforts are underway to tackle lingering security threats in the Middle Belt, particularly in Benue and Plateau states, by taking the fight directly to insurgents' hideouts, adding that new special forces had been deployed to Benue and Plateau, while a new joint task force, codenamed Operation Savannah Shield, would soon be inaugurated to specifically cover Kwara State and parts of Niger State. The CDS further said Nigeria is partnering with some allied countries to bridge gaps in intelligence gathering, adding that such partnerships are being streamlined to safeguard the country's sovereignty, but the armed forces lacked the manpower to be deployed to every part of the country at once, adding that continuous movement of troops from one theater to another has placed enormous strain on personnel. Earlier, Chairman of the House Committee on Defense, Honorable Babajimi Benson, in his remarks, observed that Nigeria's contemporary security challenges cannot be addressed through kinetic approaches alone, and acknowledged the gains made by the armed forces and other security agencies towards sustainable peace that required complementary non-kinetic strategies.
A new set of special forces that were trained in Doma were drafted to Benue and Plateau. Then we're about inaugurating another joint task force that will cover Kwara specifically and some part of Niger, that is Bogu area. That is going to be strengthened to ensure that that area gets better. The joint task force will be named Savannah Shield, and a joint task force commander has been appointed, and we're trying to see how we can pull resources from other places to ensure that we cover that part. You're all aware that we're partnering with some allied countries to support us because we have shortfalls in some areas like gathering intelligence because we don't have the platform. That is the truth. But with their coming, we'll get better intelligence, and we're acting on them as we get those feedbacks from them. They've been quite helpful, but we're trying to see how we can streamline the ones that are coming, because we can't partner with everybody.
the persistence of security threats underscores the need for deeper institutional reforms, improved coordination, and smarter deployment of scarce resources. The expectations of Nigerians are high, and rightly so. They demand results that translate into safer communities, restored livelihoods, and renewed confidence in the authority of the state.
Former Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai has declared that the African Democratic Congress (ADC) will not adopt zoning or any form of consensus arrangement in its presidential primary ahead of the next general elections. El-Rufai said the party is committed to conducting free, fair and transparent primaries where all aspirants will be given equal opportunity to contest without pressure, imposition or forced withdrawal. El-Rufai also said the ADC leadership is currently working on its manifesto and policy platform, while also engaging prospective presidential, governorship and other aspirants to build internal unity ahead of the primaries. According to him, the party has resolved that no zoning arrangements will be applied and that no aspirant will be compelled to step down in favor of another, and also dismissed claims that the ADC lacks grassroots support, insisting that the party's growing influence is evident across the country. There was a heavy security presence on Tuesday at the National Secretariat of the Labour Party in Abuja as the acting national chairman, Senator Nenadi Usman, took over the headquarters from the Julius Abure-led faction. Usman confirmed the development through her senior special advisor on media, Ken Asogwa, at the party's national secretariat in Otako, Abuja, where gun 13 and 10 looking policemen were stationed within and around the premises. All Labour Party banners and giant billboards bearing the faces of Abure and his executives within the premises have been replaced with those of Usman, and when contacted to confirm whether the OT-backed faction had fully taken over the National Secretariat, Usman said the move was long overdue. Reacting, the factional National Publicity Secretary Obiora Ifo said the Abure-led faction will respond officially, and this is coming after last month a federal high court in Abuja ruled that Abure's tenure as national chairman of the Labour Party had elapsed and ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to recognize the caretaker committee led by Usman pending the conduct of a national convention. The judgment followed prolonged internal disputes, court cases and parallel leadership claims that intensified after the 2023 general elections, and INEC later recognized Usman as the acting national chairman of the party, citing a court order directing it to acknowledge the caretaker committee. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) has arraigned two suspects, Gidado Ibrahim and Halimat Adenike Tejujo, over the alleged collection of 603.4 million naira to facilitate the appointment of one Olushaye Yomi Sholoye as Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited. The suspects were arraigned before the Federal Capital Territory High Court sitting in Maitama, Abuja, on an amended 6-count charge bordering on fraud and obtaining money by false pretense. According to the EFCC, the defendants allegedly obtained the sum from their complainant between August and October 2024 on a claim that they could influence her appointment into the top position at the National Oil Company. The Commission said the offense is contrary to Section 1, Paragraph A of the Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act 2006 and punishable under Section 1, Paragraph 3 of the same law, and further accused Ibrahim of using a forged document behind the letterhead of the presidency. Ibrahim pleaded not guilty to all the charges, and the court subsequently ordered that Ibrahim be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Center, Abuja. Chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Professor Abdullahi Usman, has resigned from his position and had alleged that his resignation followed a petition submitted by the NACON board to President Bola Tinubu calling for his removal over alleged abuses and misconduct, but the exact reason for his decision has not been officially stated. Technical assistant media to the NACON chairman Ahmad Muazu confirmed the development but said the circumstances surrounding the resignation were still unclear, adding that persistent leadership failures had compromised the credibility, stability and operational effectiveness of the commission. In a petition dated January 19, 2026, signed by 11 board members entitled Vote of No Confidence in the chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, Professor Abdullahi Saleh Usman, the board alleged financial indiscipline, lack of transparency and repeated expenditure of funds and award of contracts without board approval, exceeding budgetary limits. Before his resignation, Usman's last official engagement took place last week when he received Saudi Arabia's Minister of Hajj and Umrah, Dr. Tawfiq Abdurabia, in Abuja. National Identity Management Commission has launched a new customer service line to improve communication and service delivery to Nigerians. The service line is intended to provide timely support on the issues related to the National Identification Number, including enrollment, modification, verification, and other related concerns. NIMC said the initiative is part of ongoing efforts to enhance customer experience, reduce response time, and ensure efficient resolution of complaints and inquiries, adding that the new helpline will operate during official working hours and will serve as a direct channel for individuals seeking clarification or assistance with NIMC services. NIMC urged members of the public to make proper use of the new service line and follow official guidelines when seeking support. The Commissioner also cautioned against patronizing unauthorized agents and also reiterated its commitment to strengthening identity management systems and delivering improved services to Nigerians through technology-driven solutions. NIMC also reminded Nigerians that their national identification number is the key tool for accessing government services, financial systems, and national platforms. Federal government has approved salaries for the joint health sector unions, and the union have suspended its 84-day nationwide industrial action following a successful conciliation meeting. The government on Tuesday said all members have been directed to return to work immediately in the interest of patients, health system stability, and national public health security. A statement signed by Ado Bako, Assistant Director of Press and Public Relations, the Minister of State for Health, Dr. Isiaq Adekunle Salako, said the resolution reflects the federal government's commitment to dialogue, fairness, and protection of Nigeria's health workforce, and the government has withdrawn the no work, no pay directive issued during the strike and approved immediate payment of January 26 salaries for all JHOSU members. The minister further said the government will continue negotiations on the collective bargaining agreement and prioritize outstanding issues relating to the consolidated health salary structure, while commending the spirit of cooperation, patriotism, and responsibility demonstrated by all parties, and reassured Nigerians of the government's commitment to ensuring uninterrupted quality and accessible health care services across the country. This is coming after the chairman of JHOSU's Cross River State Chapter, Dr. Basi Ika, said the union had warned of a renewed nationwide strike if the federal government fails to implement the agreed salary adjustment by April, while the warning follows the suspension of the union strike, which began on November 15, 2025 and was halted on February 6, 2026 by its national leadership. And now to some business news. National Space Research and Development Agency and grassroots bridge builders have called for stronger investment in technology-driven skills acquisition as a way to prepare Nigerian youth for future jobs and address rising unemployment and social vices. The appeal was made recently at the official opening of the NASDAQ Grassroots Bridge Builder Skills Development Project held at the Women Development Center in Abuja, which attracted a large turnout of young people seeking practical empowerment opportunities. Speaking at the event, the Director General and Chief Executive of Grassroots Bridge Builders, Engineer Ibrahim Moses Igoje, urged governments at all levels, the private sector and development partners to intensify support for skills acquisition initiatives, describing youth empowerment as a strategic pathway to economic stability and sustainable national development. According to him, Nigeria's growing youth population can only be transformed into a productive force through access to relevant technology-enabled skills that align with the demands of a rapidly changing economy, adding that the empowerment platform had helped take many youths off the street by engaging them into profitable ventures and equipping them with practical skills, adding that such programs are curbing drug abuse and other social vices. He also commended the government agencies and partners supporting the initiative, paying tribute to the Director General and Chief Executive of NASDAQ, Dr. Matthew Adepoju, whom he described as a visionary leader committed to youth empowerment and national transformation. And now to international tidbits. Kenya says it will talk to Russia over growing reports that its citizens are being recruited to fight in a war in Ukraine. Foreign Minister Musalia Mudavadi called the practice unacceptable and clandestine and said Nairobi had shut down illegal recruiters and would urge Moscow to sign a deal banning the conscription of Kenyan soldiers. The Kenyan government estimates that around 200 of its nationals have been recruited to fight for Russia, and the exact number remains unclear, as Nairobi maintains that none of them traveled through official channels. Mudavadi also said Kenya's engagement with Russia will focus on curbing illegal recruitment practices, including discussions on visa policy and bilateral labor agreements excluding military conscription, adding that the Kenyan authorities had closed more than 600 recruitment agencies suspected of duping Kenyans with promises of jobs overseas. President Donald Trump has threatened to block the opening of a bridge connecting the U.S. and Canada until Washington is fully compensated for everything it has given to its northern neighbor. He said the Goldie Hallway International Bridge connecting the Canadian province of Ontario to the U.S. state of Michigan would not open until Ottawa treats the United States with the fairness and respect that we deserve. According to the project's website, the bridge is being funded by the Canadian government but will be publicly owned by both Canada and Michigan, and the bridge which spans the Detroit River is expected to open to traffic pending formal tests and approvals in the early parts of this year. Construction began in 2018, but the bridge has been a point of contention between the countries for more than a decade. The organizations developing the bridge, the Windsor Detroit Bridge Authority, is wholly owned by the Canadian government, according to the project's website, and also blamed former President Barack Obama for allowing construction to begin without the use of any U.S. steel. And here now is ATN Sports News. Message from former Al Hilal star Karim Benzema threatened the mood of his former Real Madrid teammate Cristiano Ronaldo and sent the football legend on strike at Al Nassr. This came to light after Benzema moved from Al Ittihad in January, following his disagreement with Al Hilal, while the French player moved from Jeddah to Riyadh on transfer deadline day, leaving the team that won the championship last season. Ronaldo has been upset after the transfer deadline last week, refusing to play in either of Al Nassr's last two matches as a form of protest. The Frenchman joked with Ronaldo, saying he would get a salary raise after moving to Al Hilal and would also win the league title. And now, entertainment news. Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Temilade Obeniyi, popularly known as Tems, has become the first African female artist to have seven entries on the US Billboard Hot 100 chart. The milestone came after her song What You Need debuted at number 93 on this week's Billboard Hot 100, bringing her total entries to 7. With this achievement, Tems now ties her compatriot Burna Boy and South African group Sita as the African artist with the most Billboard Hot 100 entries with 7 each. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go, and a look at the major stories. Football attacks core members to uphold lasting legacy. Senate appoints 12 members on Electoral Act. El-Rufai insists no zoning in ADC presidential primaries. NASRODA calls for investment in technology skills. Trump threatens to block Canada bridge. Benzema's text message threatens Cristiano Ronaldo, and Tems is first African female artist with 7 entries. I am Favor. Question Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter now, X at Atlantic TV Network, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. To have a wonderful night rest.